Morning, guys. I wanted to go into something that I've went into a little bit already, but I wanted to go more into it, and that's the idea of how these occult groups um, practice the crime of fraud and impersonation. Now, I already went into a little bit of how they do it and how they will like to find somebody that looks a lot like somebody in their occult family, especially if they can find someone that has the same or very similar initials in their name already. Why? Well, that's because it makes it easier to fraudulently swap properties and give properties to each other. Okay? One thing a lot of people don't realize is when you're getting into these big contracts of buying a home or even insurance policies, there will be a whole lot of pages to these documents. And a lot of them will just be initials. You'll initial a whole lot of pages, and then at the very end there'll be the part where you have your full signature on it. But until then, it'll just be a bunch of pages of initials. Now, if someone wasn't paying attention, you could easily fraudulently put somebody in a house that had the same initials by just swapping a little bit of paperwork. All you really have to do is you're just banking on somebody not actually reading through the whole document. Which, guess what, guys? No surprise, that happens a lot, especially when you have people who have jobs that they don't deserve and they're yoked up in an occult group practicing crime. All right, let's dive into this a little bit more. All right, let's just use an example, okay? Let's say that some occult family finds somebody else in a similar occult group family, and they look a whole lot alike, almost twin-like. Even better if they have the same initials, okay? Maybe like JDH or JHD, something like that. Hypothetically speaking. Well, what these folks will do, they'll impersonate each other when they're doing their ritual crime. They will swap names for that, so that the victims that they're victimizing will think that they are one person by one name. And in reality, that is a person, that is a real family. They're just off in another state somewhere else. And then the other family will do the same thing with those people in that family. Now, what do they do to make this worth their while to practice this crime? Well, they swap properties with each other, or whatever other thing that needs names attached to it and registrations. Maybe somebody will pay off a mortgage, or maybe somebody will buy a house and then just put them on the deed. They'll do things like that. And how they'll get away with this is when it comes to the closing table, they'll send an agent to represent them on their behalf. So you'll only have one party there actually at the closing table signing it. The other party won't be there. They'll have an agent representing them. Now, pretty sure this agent will probably know what's going on, but who knows? It's easy to claim that I didn't know what was going on. I was just doing my job. So that you don't get pinned with the crime. And that's why they practice it like this. This is very much a thing that they do, impersonation and fraud. They'll do this if they're targeting a victim too. Let's say they want to find somebody in the family that they want to target and pin some crimes on because they want to get them out of the picture. Maybe that person's got an inheritance or a trust or something in their name that they want to steal. Well, they'll find somebody that looks a lot like the person they want to target. Again, even better if the person has the same initials as them or a very similar name. And they'll have that person that looks just like the person they're targeting commit crime in that target's name. They'll do things to children. They'll do all kind of nasty stuff in their rituals, and they'll tell these people that they are the target. So that one day, when the victim wants to confess and claim some kind of abuse or crime, they'll say, well, so-and-so did it to me. And the person that they think did it to them looks a lot like the person that actually did it to them. Does this make sense now? How this wicked behavior works? This insidious, sinister, disgusting, despicable crime ring works? And you would think the people who would do this would be your equivalent of human gingivitis. No, a lot of times these people look really good and they have really fancy jobs. They wear suits and ties, and you would perceive them as good people if you saw things in a worldly lens, like most people do. But guys, we have to get into the practice and develop the skill set of seeing the unseen, seeing the real. Because there's a lot of people that are really good at faking it. They're really good. They've studied and learned how to look good, but be bad. This is what you're looking for. This is what you are developing with your sight beyond sight. Y'all have a good one.